Hello, it's Bart from NatureManufacture. I would like to show you new lava and volcano environment 2019. Basically, most changes was made with system and we added physics interaction with our spline. Of course, our shader also was improved in speed a bit. First of all, when you have a project, please do not have any compile errors before you import our pack, because simply these two, create liver spline and create lake, will not show up, as editor script will be blocked by compile errors in your project. So please keep your project clean before you import our stuff. Next thing is that if you use any HT or L.V.E at your project, so you have to remember that first of all you create such a product, then you import our pack, and after that you simply import support pack which we provide in our asset. It's because we will make it work out of the box. In such a pack we have shaders, materials, prefabs, everything that will make this working out of the box. Remember that also you need to change a lot in these versions, and from time to time we will also provide new support files to support new versions of the RP, right? Because it's very fluid there. For L.V.E it will rather stay the same for longer time, but for HTRP, yeah, changes are very fast, and we will simply provide such a pack from time to time. Also remember to have a post-processing stack at your project, because lava emission is based on bloom. This is how emission at engine works. It's based on bloom. So yeah, remember about post-processing. Let's play with this system. The first step in our system is to create reverse spline. We go to hierarchy, 3D object, create reverse spline. With left mouse button and control, we set up points one by one. Very easy. With shift we could add points between points. You see the debug, it shows when the point will appear and which point it will connect. And with control shift you could remove point as well, so it's very easy. Basically the same functionality you have in points level, when you could add point after point, or you could remove point, you could move point, everything, right? It's the same functionality, but in table. With E button you have rotation of each point. With W button you have move. You could even move whole spline if you want. With R button you could scale each point separately. Yeah, you have all this functionality on the left top of your screen. You could also change the whole river scale and width by this function. It changed scale of whole river. You also could add noise multiple times if you want, and you could back to original scale, I mean the width, by this button again. You have basically the same functionality in basic level. You could scale, rotate, you could restart the rotation as well, and you have whole functions in per point in this level. Another thing is that you also could manage the VET distribution over our spline. If you go to wireframe, you see that if we change U and V values, they change amount of VETs over the spline. There is also an option to move it by curve, so you will able to see that we could change a lot in its shape. Let's check it. Let's restart it to default, so it will react on our changes. And you see that yeah, basically if we'll move these points up, it will change the VET position, so it's very useful. The same thing you could do per point in points level, and it's changed real time. It will not change all spline, but only a specific point. You could also change the distribution, so you could save a lot of VETs and get shape exactly that you need. You will simply spend VETs on the river borders and save them in the middle. It's very useful for lava, roads, and other specific objects. Mostly for lava, because if we rather want to curve borders of the lava, down, of course, down, and that's why we move these verts to left and right side. But while we don't need so many verts in the middle of the spline. Of course, in cheap variant when we don't use tessellation and vertex color, because for vertex coloring and tessellation we rather want to use square verts just to get proper tessellation effect or full power and possibilities of vertex color over the spline. Yeah, because it's based on vertex. Next thing is that we could change the lighting settings. We could of course manage shadows, casting shadows, all this stuff, and we also could snap it. We could snap it into terrain or any other object that have collider. You also could snap it to proper layer or separated layer. So yeah, we could snap just one point as well, only separated points or few separated points. So yeah, there is huge amount of possibilities with snapping if you need this. I would say for lava it's rather something natural, it's snap to the terrain. Yeah, we could change material. We could add material just by drag and dropping, but there is also profile system, which is very, very advanced and helpful. It's something like prefab. It's simply, you simply drag and drop profile into our river and you get everything out of the box, because profile contains information about material, about Flowmap, about how it will carve terrain, how it will paint terrain, everything. Just you drag and drop profile and you have our lava river out of the box. The same with lake, basically. So it's a very powerful thing, and you could change the profile very fast. Just, you know, drag and drop another profile and you have totally different lava river out of the box. You could create profile, save profile, reset to profile default values in these 3 buttons. So it's very, you know, it's very useful and easy to manage. Of course, we snap our lava now to the terrain and it looks pretty nice out of the box. I think snapping is most natural for lava, and we could, for example, now move this last point a bit, yes, and, you know, create something more natural. I mean, the end of the lava become more natural. We have to unsnap the last point, so we could, you know, hide it a bit. Look what we could do now. We will increase the height of the last point, and you will see we have pretty natural ending of the lava river. I would say pretty natural. Of course, we could manage the points on the borders and adjust this a bit to make it more suitable for the terrain shape, or, you know, what we need. Yeah, so this is how fast we could do such a lava river. We could change the profile to any other profile. We could use the frozen one. Yeah, we have frozen river. We could use other lava, and, you know, it's very easy to estimate what lava type basically fit our goal. If we will change the red angle of the point, we see that increase we hit or decrease hitting at this point. And of course we also make lava moving faster or slower. Basically this simulate waterfalls at our spline. The main way to create waterfalls is to simply move the points and create waterfalls. Our material automatically generate waterfalls, lava waterfalls in these points. So we get nice lava river out of the box, just because it had different angles on the spine. If we'll go back a bit to snapping, if we'll put a custom object into our spline, so it will not become terrain, we also could snap our river into it. So we simply choose layer which we want to detect under our spline. So it will sample the collider, and we got it. We could move the point and it still becomes snapped. Remember that if you use pretty complex mesh under our spline, you have to also increase amount of verts, so we'll catch all differences under the spline. Other option is to use spline curves per point, so you could manage the shape of the spline in current place, so it will much better in current point to the shape under the spline. It's better way to do this. You will not add more verts, but you will have to adjust the spline manually, so it will fit the bug. So as we see, we have many different ways to snap it into object and make it fit with background. Another thing is that we want to show is Vertex color and Flowmap. In Vertex color, we go to Vertex color label and we, for example, change the color that we want to paint. We'll use air color maybe, and you will see, let's choose the air color properly, let's increase it, and you see that we basically paint with basic cold layer which exists on flat area. If you will use B color, we will get a small waterfall heated area, and with B channel we create hot cascades. So with such a tool, we could really, I would say, customize our lava a lot in every place, right? We have full control. If we'll change it to other material, for example frozen lava, we could blend it with background or give a view of, it will look like eroded one. So we will choose maybe first of all, let's decrease opacity so it will be more smooth. And for example, with air channel, we could heat cold lava. So yeah, it looks like cold lava with small areas where it's still hot. We of course could blend it with terrain as well. For example, we could overlay it with sand, and as we see with tessellation and high blending that it had, we see that we fill the gaps of the lava with sand, so it looks like more eroded. It's pretty nice way to get very cool effect of such a cold lava. It looks like old eroded lava. After many years, it become covered by sand, right? Volcanic sand. Yeah, you could achieve very nice effect with playing vertex colors, especially when our materials support them, and as you have full control over it, you could do really a lot. Okay, now I think we'll restart colors and change material into a fluid one. So we'll choose this one and play with Flowmap. This is also a very cool thing. First of all, Flowmap is separated into two options: automatic, which is by default, and manual, where we could paint Flowmap manually. In automatic, we have control over slow and waterfall speed separately. Let's restart it to default and see what will happen. When we change the slow speed, we see that it also changed in speed in flat area. We could, as we see what happened exactly in real time. If we'll change the Flowmap speed in cascade, we see that it's changed on area where the angle is higher when the waterfall exists. So yeah, So that's how we could manage it. There is also noise option, which we have to use very softly, because if we'll put too strong values, we will get errors on UV, especially in tessellated shader. So we rather want to keep it very soft, and it will add small noises on the lava speed, and it also will curve the shape of the lava a bit, so it will not look so repetitive. Anyway, it doesn't look repetitive at all. With manual painting, as we see, we simply increase or decrease speed by sliders. We also could change the direction. We could even invert the lava in a specific place. We have full control over that. We could move it in totally very specific direction, and as we see, it's still working pretty fine. We also have to remember that the changes that we made have to be pretty soft, because if you make them too hard, we'll get errors on, the view errors on at UV. There is debug with arrows which show exactly which direction lava will follow. And yeah, this will help us to see the speed of the lava. The red color show it's very fast in the normal direction. The blue color show speed in inverted direction. So we see exactly which way and how lava will behave in specific place in our debug mode. You see? So yeah, it looks pretty nice, I think. We could achieve very nice effect with Flowmap. If we will change the profile as well into other one, maybe let's choose another one. We see also it works pretty well. By the way, I just love watching the tessellation over our spline and these changes on the lava and how it behaves on the angles. And yeah, another thing that we could do and show is just to rotate UV. We could also totally invert the direction of the lava, and yeah, this is very complex solution for all lava rivers. I think you could really get a lot. Another thing is that I want to show is simulation. It's very powerful thing. For that, we simply create 3D object, create a river spline. We set up one point. We change the width of the lava river, and then we choose a profile that we want to use for this lava as well. Okay, and if we go to simulation label, we could click show simulation, and okay, it's blocked, so we unchecked uphill, and we get simulation. We increase the length of the simulation, and we get longer lava river. Basically, these two buttons, checkboxes, help us to achieve specific result from the simulation. Of course, we could change the point interval, the amount of physics samples, a lot. If we go to generate and we click generate, we simply get lava out of the box. Yeah, we could snap it now, so it will be snapped to the terrain. Yeah, so basically it's pretty complex thing. The cool thing about this this solution is that it could carve terrain if you want to. In terrain level, we could carve terrain. There is a debug which shows us how terrain will behave, how future terrain will look. We could of course manage it. We could change relation between original terrain and shape which comes from the spline. We have curves, of course, which basically help us to do this as well, because we could carve terrain outside the spline as well. So it's it's pretty complex tool. Yes, we could play with curves a lot. We also could, of course, manage the terrain under the spline as well, as we see. We could play with this for sure. It will give you ability to get proper shape of the lava river. Of course, we could add noises. These noises are separated for under the spline and outside the spline. So you could really play with this. If we could carve the terrain, we could also paint it with our spline solution. If we click paint and we choose a texture, it will paint it first. We could, of course, force it to paint outside the spline as well, as we see. So we have full control over the painting. There is also option to paint with noises, so we could mix two textures, for example, like that. Maybe let's increase the noise power, and we see that it paints with noises as well. There is an option to paint slopes and cliffs separately, so we simply choose the texture for our cliffs, and our system will separately paint the texture for cliffs and for flat area, even separately under the spline and outside the spline. So let's choose now the texture which we want to use under the spline and outside the spline. Now we'll choose the angle where this texture should show up, and after we click paint, we see it paint the terrain for us. Very simple tool. You could really play with this a lot. You see that it's also painted under the spline, and this could be used, for example, to paint something like a road by textures, right? Just without using our lava. You know, it's pretty complex tool. As we could paint, we could also paint texture. We could also remove foliage like trees and grass from the terrain. So we will simply place a spline, and it will cut grass and trees from our terrain. There are a lot of options. There are CS file point import option and export, of course, tips, manual which will go provide you to PDF file, and of course video tutorial which will move you to exactly this video and this video playlist. Okay, so I think now we'll try to play with something else. We'll create lake this time, and we simply do the same like last time. So with control we set up points, with shift we could add points between points like it was in river. With control shift we could remove them as well. If we go to wireframe, we could change the vert distribution over the lake. For tessellation, we rather try to use equal triangles, because you know tessellation rather works on when triangles are pretty equal. So we rather should keep equal verts for tessellation, but if we don't use tessellation, we could use any shape. As you see, we are plenty options to manage the shape. We could change the amount of verts on the spline outside the lake, and we could change also the height of the verts. We could unlock same height at the all points in our lake. As we will use Flowmap and Vertex colors, we rather want to have a bit more verts at our lake, so we will have a place to paint and show effects that we could achieve at our lava lake. So yeah, Let's maybe back to shaded mode and drag and drop profile, because profiles definitely work the same like with our rivers. So you could drag and drop different lava materials and shapes out of the box simply by drag and drop profiles. As we see, we have a vertex color option panel as well. So if we will choose air color, we'll paint by basic flat color for this area. But if we will choose, for example, to G channel, we'll paint small cascade or effect, which is written on G channel. So if we will change to B channel, we'll get hot lava right from the cascade. Yeah. So you could really play with this and customize. If we choose, for example, frozen lava, we also have some options. I mean, we could do the same like we did before with river. So we could, for example, blend it with terrain outside by filling the gaps by sand. So we get result of old eroded lava lake, right? It works on high blending, and with tessellation it really gives nice effect. We could also, for example, hit it. We could hit lava in every place as well. So yeah, it's pretty nice. I think you could build something very cool with that. We also, for example, let's choose a fluid one, and we also could play with a Flowmap as well. So let's get nice result now. Let's change UV and play with Flowmap. As we see, we have the same debug like in river, with the arrows which shows which direction our lava moves. In automatic option, we could, for example, invert the direction, change the speed. We could also add noises as well. Of course, please, like I said before, keep it very soft, because we could get errors at UV if the speed will increase too fast in very short distance. Because yeah, it's tessellated shader. Even on non-tessellated shader, which is pretty more flexible, you could get pretty bad result if this simply will be too sharp. Of course, you also have a manual painting tool, so you could paint the Flowmap manually at your lake as well. So basically it means that you could force it to move any direction, even opposite from two sides of the point, and yeah, you have full control over it. You could make it avoid rocks, or you know, you could do what you want with this. Lakes also have a carving option, so you could carve the terrain under the lakes and around the lake, lava lakes. I think yeah, it works the same like with rivers. So you could change the relation between original terrain and, you know, how far you could how far it should affect the terrain, what shape should be under the lake. There is also noise option and everything that basically we showed at the river. I think it should be enough to carve your terrain around the lake. You could also paint as well the terrain around the lake, so we could simply choose the splat which one to use. It works with noises, and it also works with cliff, so on big angles you could paint cliff textures as well. So you have totally full control over the textures around the spline, around the lake. Yeah, the lakes also have a simulation tool. It's in alpha currently, but in most cases it works pretty well. So we set 1 point, we choose the height, we go, we choose the profile which we want to use, for example this one, because it also uses profiles. We simulate and we see it fill, the terrain with lava lake. It recognizes the holes into terrain and it fill place with lava from this current height. It's in alpha state, but yeah, I think it's worked pretty cool. And you could also switch the profiles like in reverse, so you could estimate what lava material fit you. It contains CS file, import, export, tips, manual of course button, and video tutorial button, so whole functionality that spline have. Very cool feature is that we could hit rocks automatically which touch the lava. So we choose the rock, we choose the RAM coloring script, and you see it's hit lava when it touched the spline. Remember to use our Vertex color prefabs because they contain shaders and materials that support it. And you see when we simply move our rock, we could adjust how it hit, how the distance from this spline and the threshold. So you could, you simply put the rocks around the spline, they become automatically hit. It's a very powerful thing, which you don't have to spend time on Vertex coloring every rock that touch the spline. Now let's make it unstatic and make something even more epic. We will make it flow on the surface. So for that, we first of all move it into the lake a bit. We add RAM Buoyancy script, which will basically add rigid body. We change the mass. We choose the collider for RAM Buoyancy script, which we want to use for physics. We choose the layer. Then we use convex shape because it's cheaper for CPU and GPU. Remember that to have check it on collider on the lake surface. In project settings in physics, we have to uncheck the default and water interaction. It's very important for physics, and mesh coloring time should be checked on runtime as well. Now we see object become heated when it touch the lake. If we'll move lake a bit higher, object flow, right? We see that it moves on the Flowmap. We could move it and it behaves pretty natural. We move this object and it flow on the surface and automatically hit. It's a very powerful thing, especially when you want to, for example, have a player with jump on the lava rocks, and these rocks are heated as they go down into the lava surface. You could also burn the player or hit the player or object which touch the lava. I think the only restriction is that you have to use our script, which will hit the rock, and our material, which basically is a standard material, which we give additional ability to use emission from Vertex color. And yeah, you could really achieve very nice effect. So maybe let's take a look on this shader and material which use our Vertex coloring and automatically hit it. Let's open these rocks, and there's a material, and we see it's absolutely standard shader, nothing more, the same functionality, maybe a bit more optimized, and you have rim light and emission, and you have full control over these two values. So you could really achieve very cool effects, and it could really affect your gameplay. I think it's worth to adding to your game, where just many possibilities from that. You could burn everything, just touch the lava. So I think there is another thing that we could show. There is a lava material. I think it's very important to know what happened there. Beside the rim light and emission colors, which are pretty, I think, simple thing, lava is, I would say there are a few sections in the material. Lava basically, in lava you could manage the UV and speed of the material, but you could, it's separated for cold, medium and hot path. In all these paths you have separated sliders to manage emission, to manage normals, tessellation power, to manage the angle that lava will become hot, the angle when lava become heated, right? We see that when we create a waterfall, material simply become hot, right, on this angle, and we could of course manage this on our material. Let's take a look how to do this. In material there is an angle and threshold for each stage. So for example, we could manage when cold lava show up, or medium, where the medium lava show up, where its threshold, we basically read the angles of the spline, so you could move these angles and force, for example, lava to show hot stage in totally different place, right? You see that we have totally full control over that. Remember that this is Vertex, high blending material. So yeah, we set up it, I think, in most proper way, just to get the nicest effect when rock become fluid. There is also something that you should know about this material, is that have, like I said, with full control over emission, you could change behave on every stage, so you could decide when lava is hot or not, right? Also there's a like we told, you could manage the tessellation on each stage, and there is a vertex color sliders, which, because when we change the angles, it's for automatic blending, right? But when you use vertex colors, you also have to say when this blend appear and how it will work. So with these sliders you manage blending between layers, but when you add vertex color, painted areas, right? So this gives you basically full control over the material. Frozen lava material works pretty the same, but it have less layers. It have basic lava layer with heating. It's similar to standard material, and there is also cover material, for example sand, and with our setup which we give, it will simply fill the gaps with sand, right? So we simulate the erosion of our lava surface. Yeah, I think materials are pretty simple. They have, I would say, plenty sliders, but we give you full control over this. We use detail maps, which are basically used in HDRP. I mean, their detail is saved on R channel, and normal detail is on G and A channel. This saves a lot of GPU source, because you don't spend two textures to add detail maps. You simply have one texture, and we decompress normal ourselves. Remember that this texture should be linear, not RGB, right? It should be data, not color object. So yeah, we show that we hit the object by splines, we hit the object by legs, but there's the option to paint everything manually. If only object have our shader, which is, like we told, standard shader extended into support heating on L channel, we could paint few nice effects on the rock ourselves by painter, because beside that we have painters on the spline and legs. We also have painters on for every other object as well. So if we will go to let's take a look and go to tools and open our Vertex painter tool. We have options to paint Flowmap and Vertex color. So we could paint, we could hit the rock by using air channel, right? Because we decrease air color, because rocks basically are white, right? Every models are basically white, so we decrease the color and we get heating. It's a bit inverted from spline, but it's because all default objects are white. Let's choose maybe other object, more complex. We'll use a cliff, right? As we see, we could hit this cliff as well on the lake, like we did before with lava spline, lava river. You have full control over that. You could achieve really nice effect, I think. But with our Vertex tool painter, we could do even more, because as you see or not, it's UV free material on it. So we could, for example, first of all, heat it like we did before by decreasing air channel, right? But we also could paint, for example, rock on it. If we will decrease G channel, we see that we could paint rock. And for example, we could paint also sand by B channel. Yes. We could even make a mix. I think, you know, I mean, we could paint, for example, rock and for example, heat it as well. Let's take a look on this conception. You see, we could paint heated rock on every place. So with these cliffs, with these UV free materials, we could really achieve a lot, like we did, for example, in our cave from video, when we paint all cave objects but manually. I mean, this part which doesn't touch the spline. All walls were painted manually. As we see, it's UV free shader. It covered it covered by sand from the top, and we see that we could even rotate and get nice effect when we basically play with threshold and power of the heating above the lake. So yeah, it's very powerful. You could truly build very nice environment, very nice cave environment with that. So I think it's useful. The other spline usage is, I would say, yeah, people use it like that, and I think we should show it. We could, for example, paint a cliff border. As for example, Unity terrain doesn't support triplanar, we could trick that. We, for example, paint a big spline, and then we snap it in. Of course, we increase amount of verts, so it will cover pretty properly the terrain. And we choose, for example, cliff, and we get cliff out of the box. Just, and you know, it could be vertical, more vertical than terrain, and it behaves pretty natural. As we have all Vertex color options, we could paint all effects like heating, or you know, we could paint the sand cover as well, right? So we could blend it with terrain on the borders. Why not? We have full control over the shape of this spline, right? So we could you know, get additional effect in specific points or in all points, like we did in rivers. So basically the idea that you can cover very high angles of the terrain by our spline and get nice cliffs is pretty cool. Of course, you don't have to snap it into terrain. For example, we could make this wall totally vertical. So basically we give you group of tools that are pretty universal. You don't have to use it in straight way like we showed before. You could totally play with this and build something that we didn't, we didn't have idea that someone will use it in such a way. So that's all for this tutorial, and just play with this system, build something yourself, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact us by Discord or email as you wish. Goodbye.